Clarissa Oakes by Patrick O'Brien. Read by Robert Hardy. Standing at the frigate's taffrail, Jack Aubrey considered her wake stretching away over the smooth green-blue sea. She had just come about, and as he expected, her wake showed that curious nick, where when the sheets were hauled aft, tallied and belayed, she made a little wanton gripe, whatever the helmsman might do. He knew the Surprise better than any other ship. As a midshipman and as her captain, he'd served in her for many years, and he loved her even more than his first command. It was not so much as a fighting machine, for even when he first set foot aboard so long ago, neither her size nor her force had been in any way remarkable. And now the war had been going on for 20 years and more. Now that the usual frigate carried 38 18-pounders and gauged 1,000 tons, the Surprise, with her 28 9-pounders and her less than 600 tons, had been left far behind. In fact, she and the rest of her class had been sold out of the service or broken up. No, it was primarily as a ship that he loved her, a fast, eminently responsive ship that, well handled, could outsail any square-rigged vessel he'd ever seen. She had also repaired his shattered fortunes when they were both out of the Navy. Himself struck off the list, and she sold at the block, and he sailed her as a letter of marque. Furthermore, he was now her owner, for Stephen Maturin, the frigate's surgeon who bought her, had agreed to let him have her. And what was of even greater importance, both man and ship were back in the Navy, Jack Aubrey reinstated, and the frigate as His Majesty's hired vessel, Surprise. Her first task in this voyage had been to carry Aubrey and Maturin, an intelligence agent as well as a medical man, to the South Americas, there to frustrate French attempts at forming an alliance with the Peruvians and Chileans, who led the movement for independence from Spain, and to entice them to transfer their affections to England. Yet since Spain was then at least nominally allied to Great Britain, the enterprise had to be carried out under the cover of privateering. This plan had been betrayed by a highly placed but as yet unidentified traitor in Whitehall, and had to be postponed, Aubrey and Maturin undertaking quite a different mission, concluding on a different ship, to the South China Sea, eventually keeping a rendezvous with the Surprise, and thence proceeding to New South Wales, where Jack hoped to have his stores renewed and repairs carried out against their voyage to South America. And Stephen Maturin hoped to see the wonders of the Antipodes, particularly Ornithorhynchus paradoxus, the duck-billed platypus. Unfortunately, Jack's hopes were disappointed because of the ill will of the colonial officials, and the fulfilment of Stephen's very nearly killed him, for the outraged platypus, seized in the midst of his courting display, plunged poison spurs deep into his incautious arm. It was an unhappy visit to an unhappy, desolate land. But now the odious penal shores had sunk in the west, and Jack was in his old world again aboard his own beloved ship. He had an excellent crew, and many thousand miles of blue water sailing before him, and Stephen had recovered with extraordinary speed. He could now be heard playing his cello in the cabin, a remarkably happy piece he had composed for the birth of his daughter. Then why am I so cursed snappish? Jack asked himself. Cross in the morning and bloody-minded with it. It is discreditable in the last degree, he decided. But profound attachment to Stephen Maturin did not preclude profound dissatisfaction at times. Stephen could be blamed, and Jack did blame him, for having planned the escape of his former servant, Padine Coleman, from New South Wales. The escape took place in the confusion that followed Maturin's encounter with the platypus, with the consent of Padine's master and the entire crew, and it could be said that Captain Aubrey's word was unbroken, his promise that the Surprise should carry no absconder from Port Jackson, since the absconder came from Wooloo. Yet Jack dismissed this as a mere quibble. He had other causes for discontent. The curious falsity of the trade wind that obliged the ship to beat up close-hauled day after day, wearing every 4 hours. That throughout the voyage Jack Aubrey had been chaste. That he'd taken only 2 midshipmen for whom he felt a particular responsibility from his previous ship, the...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?